Hey, this is Christian and Dyke, and you are listening to one of the coolest podcasts that you can get online these days, and it's with Bob Bender on the business side of music.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
On the show with us today is co-producer, co-host Vinny Ribas. Vinny started in the business when he was 7 years old, and without doing too much math, still been in it for 50 plus years later. His past and current experiences include full-time musician and a band leader for 20 years, played drums as well as keyboards and rhythm guitar. He's been a recording studio owner and producer, songwriter with Indie Cuts, an artist, manager, and coach, a booking agent for 20 plus years, entertainment director for the Nevada State Fair for 3 years, author of several music industry books and courses, as well as hundreds of published articles. He's a music conference speaker, consultant to the music industry-related businesses, workshop conductor and trainer, and founder and CEO of Indie Connect. Vinny, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you helped co-produce this and co-host it many times. And Minor details. And so, you know, all of a sudden we get to the fact that, you know, Vinny, people need to know who Vinny Ribas and Indie Connect really is. Let's talk a little bit how you started in the business. We talked about that, you know, yesterday, I think it was in the car. You started out as a drummer.
That's right.
And age 3, you were touring the world with rock and roll bands.
No, but I did have my first paying gig when I was 7.
Okay, well, that's better than most of us. What was that paying gig?
I was playing drums in a band. There was a dad who had 2 kids. One played quarterbox and one played trumpet, and I was on drums, and the dad was on saxophone.
Okay, I have to ask, what's a quarterbox?
It's an electric accordion.
They're not all electric. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Well, hey, look, a paying gig's a paying gig. From there, you went on and wound up playing guitar, I understand, and keyboards, and did the Holiday Inn circuit?
Yeah, I played drums for a long time, and then drum machines came in and started taking over. And in order to really keep surviving and working full time, I had to, do something different. So I picked up, I had been playing a little bit of rhythm guitar, but then I picked up keyboards.
Because, drum machines sound so realistic and authentic.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You come to Nashville, Tennessee, you create this company, Indie Connect. And, what a lot of artists and entertainers, musicians, songwriters don't know about the business, that's what Indie Connect is here to help.
Right. I mean, in between the two, I was a full-time musician for a long time. At one point, I was working with a booking agent, and he wasn't booking me enough, so I complained, and he said, come work in the office. So I learned how to book. And then when he got out of the business, I ended up starting my own booking agency. So I was booking for about 20 years. I was also managing artists back then. I was the entertainment director for the Nevada State Fair. I had my own small recording studio. I was producing, I was songwriting. So, I mean, I'm 63, going to be 63 in a week or so. So you get to do a lot over those years. But I lived in Connecticut for a long time where you couldn't make a living, so I was on the road most of the time. Then I moved to Reno and was there for a long time because I wanted to have a central location that I could work full-time, 6 days a week or so in the casinos. And we did a lot of that, but you still had to tour some. And then I moved to Nashville. So it was a long road, but Indie Connect was actually started by accident.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was actually doing business consulting, and I was working with an organization called CEO Space, which is a very large organization for very big thinking entrepreneurs. It's not for the guy who wants to open up one restaurant. It's for the guy who's going in saying, okay, how do I open 100 restaurants in 5 years? What kind of plan do I have to put in place? How do I get the money in place for that? And so that's what it teaches, and it helps to connect you with all the people that you need. So I'd go to their conferences, and there'd be not entertainment, but there'd be securities attorneys, and there would be investors there, and there would be marketing experts who have done this for major companies, and branding experts, and business plan writers, and just all the pieces that you needed in order to build your business and build it the right way on a very large scale. I was the state representative for that. And so here in Nashville, when we moved here, I started the local chapter of CEO Space, and I was running weekly meetings, and it was networking meetings, mastermind meetings, basically. I love masterminding. The difference being in a mastermind meeting, everybody gets to share, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I need next. And then we all mastermind with them to help them find whatever it is that they need next, contacts, resources, you name it.
Because a lot of creative minds together works better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we would get the creatives and we get the business people. You'd have the guy who does the business plans there with the entrepreneur saying, well, did you think about this? Have you thought about this? And so it worked wonderfully. And but what I found was that I was getting a lot of musicians coming because they don't really fit in like a chamber type of meeting, Chamber of Commerce. It's, they're not networking fools like I am. I can talk to anybody. I can go up to anybody and start a conversation.
I noticed that last night. In fact, you and I went to an event and I lost you after about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
and you were.
It doesn't bother me at all. And that's the kind of thing that I teach is, how to get connected. I was seeing so many musicians at my weekly meetings that I one day said to a bunch of them, I said, why don't we get together once a week and talk music business? And so we set that up. The first week we had 5 people, and I said to one of them, who was a publicist, I said, why don't you talk a little bit about what you do? And so he did, and we had fun. We had a blast. We went for 2 hours. And then the next week we had 10, and the next week we had 25.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, there's a need for this. And the key was that I was getting people from every level of the industry. There were hit songwriters there. There were former major label artists saying, okay, I'm an independent now and I don't know how to market myself. I don't know what to do. And there were marketing people there. And I mean, it was just amazing, the mix of people who were all there helping each other. And it just grew from there. So it was all about exactly what CEO Space was about. It was like bringing everybody together. We'd have a speaker, and you were a speaker many times for that, and you actually ran one of our satellite meetings for a long time. But it was very much about getting plugged into who else has the expertise that you need? Not necessarily that you're going to hire them, but you've got a question, and here we got 20 people with all kinds of contacts and resources and knowledge. Let's see if we can help you find the answer to that question or that contact that you're looking for. The strategy that you're looking for, the ideas that you're missing, the resource that you need. And it became so overwhelming that we ended up at one point having 10 chapters around the country and 5 meetings every single week all around Nashville. That's how popular it was.
Right.
But it was not designed to be a business. It was designed to be kind of a social club, and that was hard to do because it became full-time. And so I eventually pared that down to running 1 meeting a month here. But we had the fortune. I'm just going to ramble on, just so you know.
Sure.
We had the fortune of having a videographer
when has that stopped you before? That's what I want to know.
Coming to one of our early meetings, probably like the 3rd meeting, and said, these talks are really valuable. I'm going to start recording these. So he brought his video stuff in, and he recorded over 100 of our meetings with these incredible workshops. There were 45, 50-minute workshops, sometimes longer, and incredible people. I mean, when people like Pam Lewis, Garth Brooks' former manager, calls you and says, I'd like to come and speak. And the president of GAC, Great American Country, calls and says, I'd love to come down. You're doing something right. And so we built our website. I was writing articles all the time on the industry, and a lot of it from what we learned at the meeting that week and everything. And so IndieConnect.com ended up having still has over 100 video workshops on there. It has hundreds of articles. It's just an amazing resource for all of this expertise.
I know as much time as I've spent looking at the IndieConnect website and doing my research, it was interesting. I discovered something new yesterday. The one video of help, my kid wants to be a musician, which, I get that a lot with my clients who call me. Their 16 or 17-year-old son has now become somewhat proficient in playing the guitar or the bass or the drums or whatever, and they've put a band together and they want to go in the studio and record, and they want to know what that road is that's leading they're going down. And that's where when you talk about networking and getting all these people together, you're taking, as you and I've discussed it in the past, years of experience. We get a lot of miles under our belts. We've been on the road. We've done the different circuits or the different tours, and that's it's great that you can go to school and learn the business aspects of so many things. But until you actually get in those trenches and work and learn from, baptism by fire sometimes, or trial, and error, you don't really understand the benefits and the perils and the pitfalls of everything that can happen. So, it's good when an artist can get together with someone who has some experience and mentoring, and maybe help educate them so they, every step they make, or most of them, are positive steps forward.
Right. What I find is that a lot of parents, they fall into different categories. There's the ones that are very protective, overprotective. There's the ones that are very pushy, like the dance moms, or the
stage moms,
the stage moms, and then there are those that are just, they're willing to do whatever they can to help their kid, and no matter where they're coming from, the problem is there are sharks out there, and there are sharks that take advantage of them, and they say, oh, you need to buy this equipment, or you need to pay me for artist development, and it's going to be this grand amount of money, and they put stars in their eyes. It becomes a major challenge. So that's one of the reasons that I put Help My Kids a Musician together, which is an online video series.
Right.
And I also felt like there are a lot of challenges that are inherent in that when you have a kid who's a musician that nobody addresses. Like, that kid is going to get a lot of attention. Their siblings could get very jealous. That kid could be making money when he's 15 years old, and that should be managed, because otherwise it becomes an altered reality when they later on down the road, or when they've got money and their kids, their friends don't, or their brothers and sisters don't, or whatever. So there's a lot of things like that. There are issues with parents I've seen spend a lot of money on equipment and lessons and everything, and the kid's 15 years old, and then all of a sudden gets a girlfriend and doesn't want to do music anymore, or
and
discover
now,
sports.
Yeah, and the parents have now invested in all this equipment, and now what do you do with it?
Right. And so Help My Kids a Musician, it started out as just having the experience of having so many parents coming to my meetings and saying, I don't know which way to go with this, and I don't know what's the smartest way. I don't know who to trust. And it wasn't like I had all the answers, but collectively, what I found in our meetings was that if you weren't trustworthy, you were weeded out pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. If you weren't the type that was going to be there and giving, and you were only taking, you were weeded out. And it was a place that you can come in and say, has anyone worked with this person? Or has anyone gone down this path?
Yeah.
Has anyone gone down this path and tried that? Did that work? And why did it or why didn't it? And so it was really powerful. So I tried to take those kind of comments and experiences that I've been hearing for years from parents and put them into just kind of a guideline type of course on, what is it like to go into the recording studio, and what should you expect, and what shouldn't you expect? What shouldn't the producer be doing? How do you find the right studio? How do you know whether your kid needs a website or needs this, needs that? I mean, all the things that they're going to be bombarded with online. You got to have this, got to have that, got to have that, got to have that, and knowing which path to go and which is the smartest one for the kid's age, for the kid's talent level. Those are all the things that I'm just passionate about, not seeing any more parents get taken or kids get taken or abused for their talent and stuff like that, because that happens all the time too.
We're going to touch back on that when we get back. This is Bob Bender with Vinny Ribas, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Hi, Julie Rust here with another Audible Insight. While I was on tour in the upper Midwest, I was visiting a friend of mine who had just bought a new house. He was showing me his yard. And then I heard water. Is that water running? Oh yeah, that's the neighbor's fountain next door. So I looked and looked for the little round concrete thing, although it was making a whole lot of noise. I never saw it. What I did see was beautiful rocks and trees and terraces and flowers and bushes. I mean, the landscaping was amazing. In this tiny, tiny little city yard, it looked like a little peaceful, sacred space in the mountains. I didn't find that fountain, not until the next day when I was outside doing Tai Chi and my mind was quiet. When I glanced into the yard, I saw it. It was a fountain disguised as a mountain stream. It cascaded over all those large rocks and wound its way through this tiny little yard. It was amazing. It made me think about preconceived notions, beliefs, assumptions. I decided that if I didn't stay open, I'd have a life filled with concrete fountains.
This is Julie Rust. To hear more Audible insights or listen to my music, visit me on the web at julierust.com.
Fame Music Radio, serving up a potpourri of independent music to every nook and cranny throughout the internet universe. From Roku TV to TuneIn, the world is listening. FameMusicRadio.com.
You're listening to the business side of music.
We're back. This is Bob Bender with Vinny Ribas, and you're listening to this edition of the Business Side of Music. We're talking to Vinny today here in the studio with regards to Indie Connect and the services that your company provides. I know here in Nashville, we talked about this, I think, in another meeting we had. The talent pool is real deep here, and you have a lot of great artistry that comes to town, whether it's a guitar player or a fiddle player or a drummer, a keyboardist, or a songwriter or a singer. And, you have to be on your A game the entire time. And I think a lot of people, I know that when I worked in the record business, I had people, when I'd sit in my office at the record label, and I'd watch people walk up and down Music Row, looking for that deal, quote unquote. Some of that has changed, but you mentioned that the sharks are still out there. How does an aspiring fill in the blank? How are they able to, first of all, discover what the shark actually looks like, and then how to avoid it?
Well, I mean, the first signal obviously is if it looks too good to be true. There's a good chance that it is. But the biggest thing is, if you are involved with networking and you get to know people in the industry, then again, it's really easy to say, okay, who has experience working with this person?
Yeah.
And just check their references and make sure, because what I find is a lot of people don't start out to be sharks, and they're not really sharks in the industry. They're not trying to abuse people, but they have their level of expertise that may not be exactly what you need. And yet they need clients, and so they're going to try to pull you in. And so, you can get somebody who came from a record label because the record label's downsized, and they use that "I'm from the record label" moniker to say, I know everything there is to know about the music business. I can help you as an independent artist. What I found is that a lot of people from the label have never worked with an independent artist. They didn't start there. They came out of one of the colleges as a marketing person or something like that, got a job in the label, and all of a sudden they're thrown into the general sector outside of the label. And what am I going to do? Well, this is where my expertise is. I know how to market, but I know how to market the way the record label does. I don't know how to market as an independent. And so there's a big difference between knowing what somebody's expertise is and I mean, they're very reputable as far as what they know, but knowing that it's right for you.
And you bring up something that's interesting, because this is what I preach these days, is the record label ain't what it used to be. It's you mentioned it earlier this morning in one of our conversations that the record label is the bank. They're the ones that write the checks, but they're not doing the developing anymore. The A&R has almost gone away from it entirely. And so these people that, my background was different because I started out in the road and started, touring in the concert business. But a lot of these people, I'm going to say kids that come out of the record business, they went to college, got their music degree, started in the mailroom, and once again, they have the business schematics of it. They understand how those gears work. Getting with an independent artist, which is really where the music industry is heading these days. As much as maybe terrestrial radio doesn't like to admit it, when you have platforms like Pandora and Spotify and YouTube that an independent artist can get as much success on as a labeled artist could at FM radio, and that the independent artist can go out and tour and do 40, 50 dates a year and make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 as they build that momentum. You can make a very healthy living doing that. So it is important that the independent artist finds people that have experience and expertise in working with independent.
Absolutely. What I find is that most artists don't even realize what is out there for them, and they're looking at the traditional route of going out and playing bars. That's what they're used to, and they don't understand the whole world of the gigs that are out there. One of the things I love to tell people is just listen. Anytime that you hear music, anywhere, anytime, somebody was looking for music, and somebody's paying for that.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in an elevator. I don't care if it's on the radio in your car. I don't care if you're walking through a store. It doesn't matter if you're watching a film or a TV show, or it doesn't matter. Somebody was looking for music. There are thousands of ways to make money in the music industry. And so,
and it's changing all the time.
All the time. There are all kinds of new opportunities. I mean, the independent film industry is so big right now because the equipment has got, just like with studios, the equipment's gotten so cheap that there are thousands of them. So there are thousands of filmmakers. So there are options there. There are ways that you can make money there.
And those platforms like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon, they're looking for independent films, and those independent films need music. So feeding system is growing exponentially.
Right. And then there's the whole idea of there being performance venues that people don't understand. And I'm guilty of this too, because I haven't been out there performing in a long time. So knowing everything that's out there is really difficult for anybody to know. There are so many people that I talk to who are perfect for community theaters, these small 500 to 1,200 seat theaters that are in these smaller communities all around the country that will pay $4,000 or $5,000 for a good act.
Right.
Somebody who can put on a show. Performing arts centers. I found out a couple of years ago, because of an artist I was managing, that Florida has over 200 retirement villages with theaters in them, and they pay $4,000, $5,000 for a show. And you don't have to be the draw for that. We were talking this morning, you and I, about soft ticket and hard ticket gigs. This is one of the biggest challenges that artists have. Hard ticket gigs are where you have to be the draw, and you're getting paid because you have a draw. And a concert, a lot of nightclubs are that way. Soft ticket gigs are where they already have the audience, they have the people there, and they just need somebody who's going to be a great entertainer. And most artists, the traditional route that they think about is the hard ticket gigs, going and play in the local clubs and stuff. But if they really assess the kinds of gigs that are available to them that are soft tickets, they'd be amazed what's available. And that would be things like colleges. The kids are already there. You don't have to be the draw. The kids are already there. Hotels, any place that's in a tourist area, theme parks, the community theaters in the smaller cities, the retirement villages. I mean, we can go on and on. Military bases. There are all these different venues. I was telling you this morning how I used to play a lot of AA clubs, the clubhouses, because they don't go out to the bars.
Right.
Alcoholics Anonymous, they don't go to the bars. So in any town, I can call up and say, I'm in town and I've got a night off and I would love to come down and do a dance for you or something like that. And I'd make a couple of $100 for the duo. And it was just an add-on.
Yeah, it's better than sitting at home not making money.
Or paying for a hotel room.
Yeah.
Because you can. There are a lot of things that you can do. There are a lot of ways to make money nowadays. And so artists who are counting on the label deal and being discovered, which is what we get a lot of, obviously, here in Nashville, they're missing the boat for a couple of reasons. One, because the labels aren't looking for very many people at all. I mean, they're not signing anywhere near as many people unless you have lots of money to come in, because they are the bank and they want to manage your money. So you have to come in with that, or you have to come in with millions of followers already, and most people are not doing that.
Right.
And then the other side of that is, if you were to go to a label and say, I want a deal, and they said, you're great, what they're going to want from you is complete control of everything, because you don't have anything to bring to the table but a little bit of talent, where there's thousands of people here that have talent.
It's that deep pool once again.
It's that deep pool.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is build your independent career to the level where you don't need the label. And then they will come to you. They'll seek you out and say, we want to sign you. And you say, well, what are you going to offer me?
Yeah.
I don't need you. I'm making $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
What are you going to offer me?
The cards now wind up on your side of the
Right.
table instead of theirs.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just get taken. And a lot of times, we've seen it. I've talked to I don't know how many artists who sign with a label, their album gets shelved or they never get recorded, whatever. But they're tied with the label for 3 years, 5 years, whatever,
Yeah.
and they can't do a thing with it. And it's a frustrating situation. And so because there are so many avenues that an independent artist can go down right now, whether you're playing rock music, you're playing rap, you're playing worship music, it doesn't matter. There are ways to make money. There are ways to make money by sitting home and doing YouTube videos and doing a fan club. It's just incredible that the amount of ways that somebody can make money. And it could be a little bit here and a little bit here, but a lot of it's mailbox money.
Yeah.
And it adds up. And then you don't have to be as reliant on a label deal or doing 200 gigs a year at $200 a night to try to make a halfway decent living. And I know artists that are road warriors that do that because that's the only way they can survive. There are smarter ways to work.
And I think we'll talk about that when we get back. Difference between surviving and thriving in this business. This is Bob Bender with Vinny Ribas, and you're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Vinny Ribas, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag, that's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
Next up, the Indie Artist Spotlight, brought to you by Reverb Nation.
What I've already decided to forget. Oh, but don't tell me when.
Hi, this is Shaylee. I'm from Chicago and I'm part of Reverb Nation. I play a lot of contemporary acoustic singer-songwriter music. It's kind of all in there. I play a lot of open mic venues right now, smaller coffee shop places, which I really enjoy because I get to meet people and share my music as I write it, which is nice, and promote the music that's already out. I released my first EP, We All Need to Go Places. I'm really proud of it. I wrote, played, and recorded it all in my living room. So it was a project kind of centered around self-reliance and doing things on my own and discovering things that I could do on my own. So that was really special. And it's 4 songs. Most of them are about navigating what it means to want to go somewhere without really knowing how to get there yet. And that's kind of why it's called We All Need to Go Places. You can check out my music and some videos on my website, which is shaylee.com. That's spelled SHEALEIGH.com. And you can find me on Reverb Nation /Shaylee, SHEALEIGH. Here's an excerpt of my current single, The Party.
I'm not the same as I was when we met. You are what I've already decided. the party is dead. You said please don't go and leave me alone, and I thought I let you down. You're not my fault, and I don't need to talk to know you.
This is Shaylee, and I'm part of Reverb Nation.
I'm not the same.
You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender with Vinny Ribas. You're listening to this edition of the Business Side of Music. We left off with the difference between surviving in the business and thriving in the business, and that's really where your expertise can come in with consulting.
I think that's where I kind of shine. And the difference between the two is living paycheck to paycheck versus knowing that the money is coming in. You've got mailbox money coming in. You've got more than enough money coming in. You've got gigs that are paying you well enough that it makes it easy to go and do them. And you're not killing yourself doing it. You're not having to be on the road all the time if you don't want to. Some people love that. Some people, you can take a cruise ship job and make halfway decent money just being a musician, being a piano bar player, make $3,500 a week, be gone for 4 months at a time. If that's what you love, you don't have any expenses.
You get to see the world.
Right. So there are ways
from a porthole.
Right. And for maybe 2 hours at a time on each of the islands. I know I did it for a long time. But, there are so many options for musicians that when they pigeonhole themselves into this is the route that I want, and they're not looking at all the different options, then they end up working paycheck to paycheck. They end up taking whatever gig they can, no matter how much money it is, just to be able to put the gas in the van.
To survive.
On.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between that and having a plan that says, in 3 years, this is where I want to be, and this is how much money I want to be making on a regular basis, and I only want to be traveling this much, and I only want to do this many gigs because I want to be home with my family, and I want to play this size audiences. I need to make this much per gig. And when you do that, you can now backtrack that and say, okay, in order to be there in 3 years, in 2.5 years, I need to be here. In 2 years, I need to be here. In 1.5 years, and you go all the way back to right now, and you can figure out what those stepping stones are, what those milestones are, and what you need to do to get to that next milestone. And when you start building it that way, you're thinking like a manager. A manager's job is to build your career and to develop a career around your talent, a very lucrative career.
Right.
And the way I look at myself, I do manage one artist, and I'm very proud of that, but pretty much all of my other artists are just straight consulting, and my job is to be a manager with a salary cap.
Yeah, one of the things that I talked about when I worked at the record company was, we would have artists that would jump from manager to manager to manager. And they kept saying, well, that manager's not doing what I need him to do. That manager's not doing what I want him to do. When we got down to the bare bones of it, those artists, outside of having a record deal, really didn't need a manager per se, because there was nothing to manage beyond the record contract, and an entertainment lawyer or a business manager can take care of that. It really, to me, comes down to the responsibility of the artist to figure that out. But in many cases, they just don't know how.
Absolutely. And what I find is most artists think that a manager is the booking agent. The manager's going to get them the gigs. They don't know the difference between the two. More importantly, there are a lot of people who do need managers. They just don't know how to attract them, or a booking agent. They don't know how to attract a booking agent, and you're going to get conflicting responses when you go to a booking agent and you say, I'm looking for gigs, because you have to know the difference between all the different booking agents. Some represent artists and they're exclusive with those artists. Some represent venues and they just are the ones that hire the entertainment for those venues. Some are catch-alls like the William Morrises and stuff like that. They've got the artists they represent, but they sit and wait for the phone to ring. Others are aggressive and go out and get gigs. So you've got to know as much about that as as you do about booking yourself. It's the same thing with managers. Different managers have different areas of expertise, and you need to know, number one, what you want, and then number two, how to attract that manager. What is it that I need to put in place to attract the right manager? Somebody who looks at what I have and says, I see the potential. It's not just the talent, because managers and booking agents both make money off of your income.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
That's it.
If you're not making enough money, there's no money for them to survive on.
Yeah.
There's no money. If you're a $100 a night act, and I can take 15% as a manager or as a booking agent, I'm going to make $15. But I've got the guy down the street who's knocking on my door who makes $2,500 a night. I can get $375 from him. Who am I going to make the phone calls for?
Right. Yeah.
So
this is where the artist has especially that $100 a night artist, they got to step up. They got to step up their game, so they can get to that next step.
Right, and there's two things that they can look at. Number one, what do I have to put in place that would make that manager recognize that I'm worth investing some time in, possibly. And with a booking agent, it's a different side of it. Booking agents are looking for one of two things. If they're the type that go out and get the gigs, they've got relationships with the fairs, festivals, clubs, whatever it is. They are basically saying, I need an act that I can sell. So I need either somebody who has a draw, or I need somebody who has an amazing press kit that when I play this for somebody, if I send them the video, they say, I've got to have that. And so you can attract the right people by having that in place. If you have a great video and a great website, and you present that to a booking agent who recognizes that and has the right venues for you, they're going to take you even though you don't have a draw. And it's the same thing with a manager. If you come in and say, this is what I've got in place, and so this is how marketable I am, here you can take me to market immediately. A manager might say, you know what, I can work with you because I know that in 3 months we're going to be making some good money. Or, you pay me, a lot of times this is the current deal is, you pay me $1,000, $1,500 a month for 3 months versus 15% of your commission, 20% of your commission, depending on what that manager wants. And so there are a lot of ways to do the deal, but if you don't know what to expect, then you get taken. And if you don't know how to prepare for that and how to attract them, then you never get any attention at all.
And that's where you come in.
It's exactly where I come in. I bill my services as preparing you to attract the right manager, the right booking agent, the right team members. I help you put that team together, whether you need an entertainment attorney, you need a publicist, and I don't use the same person for everybody, because one publicist is really great in country music but doesn't know how to be a publicist for the rap industry.
Oh, and so absolutely.
And it's the same thing with all the team members. So I like to consider myself, I call the company Indie Connect, because that's what I do. I get you prepared to connect with, and then I make the introductions to whoever it is that you need. But I won't do it before you're ready, because I'm not going to put my name, my reputation on the line to introduce you to a major manager or a record label or a major publisher or a hit songwriter who can co-write with you if you're not ready. If you're not ready, then it's my reputation on the line.
Right.
And I just can't take that chance.
And you, as that person who has a reputation, is not going to be able to afford those opportunities too many times of having misfires.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, you protect your relationships. That way, when I knock on the door, when I call an agent and say, I've got an act that I think you're going to like, they know, number one, the act is going to be good. Number two, they've got their promo stuff together. Number three, they're professional. They're not going to go and get drunk or show up late or whatever. They're getting somebody who I have vetted for them.
There's a certain amount of consistency that they can expect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how does an artist find you?
Well, the website is indieconnect.com, although you can also check out this podcast. There's a lot of episodes of this podcast, Business Side of Music. There's Indie Connect magazine at indieconnectmag.com. And you can just reach out to me through the website, and I return all calls. In fact, what I do is I offer half-hour consultations, free half-hour consultations to anyone who wants to schedule one. And we just kind of go through where you're at and see if there's anything that I can do to help you within the confines of that 30 minutes.
And that consultation doesn't have to be in the office. So if you're listening, we have listeners in Ireland now.
Sure.
I mean, you can just do it over the phone or Skype.
WhatsApp, you
Gotcha.
name it. I'm 63, but I'm hip,
Yes, you are. Well, Vinny, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Bob.
Always a pleasure. If you're interested in learning more about our show, drop us a line at musicpodcast@mail.com. That's musicpodcast@mail.com. If you have any suggestions of persons or topics that involve the music industry you'd like to hear about on our podcast, please feel free to let us know. You can follow us on Facebook on the Business Side of Music podcast page. You can also find us on Twitter at Music Business Podcast. Also, if you're listening to this podcast through iTunes, post a review on what you think of our show. This is Bob Bender, and you've been listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender for Bob Bender Productions. Co-producer for the show is Vinny Ribas. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound designed by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.